Usually, when we talk about a diagnosis, whether it's medical or mechanical, there's this comforting expectation of precision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. You want a clear answer.
Exactly. Like you break your arm, the x-ray shows that jagged white line, and the doctor just points at it and says, there it is. It's binary. It's broken, or it's not. The problem is visible, and the solution is straightforward. You just, put it in a cast.
Yeah, it's safe. It makes sense.
But what if we took that absolute chaos of actual human life? The missed opportunities, the devastating breakups, the sudden job losses, and instead of treating them like broken bones that need fixing, we use them as fuel.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Today, we're doing a deep dive into Amor Fati. It's this ancient formula for taking the absolute worst day of your life and tuning it into, like, the most necessary, beautiful thing that ever happened to you.
Which is, it is a radical proposition, because the default human setting is just pure resistance.
Right. We hate it.
We do. When reality hurts, we want to fight it, deny it, or, just numb ourselves to it. But Amor Fati, which translates from Latin as the love of fate, it demands the exact opposite.
It really does.
It asks us to look at the unchangeable, painful realities of our existence, and not just tolerate them, but actively embrace them.
And to explore this, we're pulling from a deeply curated stack of knowledge today for you listening. We have texts from Roman emperors and exiled philosophers, modern psychological research on cognitive behavioral therapy, case studies on leadership under the threat of nuclear war, and even some highly pragmatic modern interpretations.
Like the breakdown from the Vietnamese creator, Cosmic Writer.
Yes, exactly. We are tearing all of this down to find the practical mechanisms for surviving the modern world. Because whether you are feeling the crushing weight of 2026 hustle culture, or dealing with a profound personal loss, or, maybe you're just exhausted from the endless notifications and feeling like you are constantly falling behind, resisting your reality is burning up energy you desperately need.
And that energy drain is entirely psychological. I think that's the key here. The external world provides the friction, but we manufacture the suffering.
We're doing it to ourselves.
Completely. The goal of this deep dive is to deconstruct that manufacturing process. We need to look at how the mind categorizes adversity, and more importantly, how to recategorize it so that friction becomes traction.
Let's ground this right away with a scenario. I want you, the listener, to imagine you are at the airport. You are heading to the most important meeting of your career. Or, let's say, it's a best friend's wedding.
Oh, high stakes.
Super high stakes.
Yeah.
You look up at the departure board and the bright red letters flash. Canceled.
The absolute worst feeling.
Right. And while you're standing there, your phone buzzes. The massive project you've been leading for 6 months just lost its funding.
Ouch.
And to top it all off, you get a text from your partner and they drop the classic, "We need to talk. I think we should take a break."
Just a total avalanche.
Everything detonates at exactly the same time. The standard reaction is panic. It's a desperate desire to fight reality, to find a bait agent to scream at, to somehow rewind the clock.
Which is an entirely natural biological response, by the way. Your nervous system is perceiving a massive threat to your status, your security, your social bonds.
It's fight or flight.
Exactly. The amygdala fires, cortisol spikes, and you enter a state of defensive rage or despair. But from a philosophical standpoint, that reaction is a categorical error.
How so?
You are raging against a reality that has already materialized. You're fighting the past.
So instead of just enduring that nightmare day, gritting our teeth until we get home to a bottle of wine, Amor Fati suggests we should actually welcome it.
Right.
But I want to trace the origin of that specific term, because while it sounds like it came straight out of a toga-wearing Roman senator, the phrase itself actually comes to us from a 19th century German philosopher, Friedrich Nietzsche.
Yes. Nietzsche's the one who took this underlying Stoic attitude and gave it a name, and more importantly, he gave it an explosive urgency.
He really leaned into it.
He did. The Greek and Roman Stoics absolutely lived the concept, but Nietzsche made Amor Fati the literal bedrock of his philosophy for human greatness. And you really have to understand the context of Nietzsche's life to understand why he needed this concept so desperately.
Yeah, he wasn't writing from a place of comfortable academic detachment, was he?
Not at all.
He was in agonizing physical pain for most of his adult life, right? Like migraines, near blindness, severe digestive issues, eventually suffering a complete mental collapse.
A life of profound suffering, isolation, and just massive professional rejection. I mean, his books barely sold while he was lucid.
That's heartbreaking.
It is. And yet, from the depths of that physical and emotional agony, he writes in his autobiographical book, Ecce Homo, in a section titled, with incredible irony and defiance, "Why I am so clever." He writes his ultimate formula for human greatness.
The quote is staggering when you think about his physical state. He says, "My formula for greatness in a human being is Amor Fati, that one wants nothing to be different, not forward, not backward, not in all eternity, not merely bear what is necessary, still less conceal it, but love it."
He is specifically targeting the idea of hoping for a better past.
Which is such a wild concept.
Because hoping for a better past is the ultimate exercise in futility, and yet it is what we spend most of our mental energy doing.
Oh, constantly. Replaying arguments in the shower.
Exactly. Nietzsche viewed idealism, pretending things are fine when they aren't, or wishing for a utopian alternative as a form of cowardice. He called it mendacity in the face of what is necessary.
Mendacity meaning lying.
Right.
Yeah.
He demanded that we look at the ugly, painful, devastating parts of life and accept them uncompromisingly as reality per se. You don't try to paint a smiley face on a tumor.
Wow. Yeah.
You look at it, you acknowledge its absolute necessity in the timeline of your life, and you affirm it.
He uses this term, the yes-sayer. Like, in The Gay Science, he writes about wanting to learn to see as beautiful what is necessary in things. He explicitly states he doesn't want to wage war against the ugly.
No pointing fingers.
Right. He doesn't want to accuse the people who wrong him. He wants his only negation, his only no, to simply be looking away. Aside from that, he just wants to say yes to existence.
It's profound.
But I have to ask, how does saying yes to suffering not just turn into masochism? Like, if my flight is canceled and I lose my job, saying yes, this is beautiful, feels a bit, I don't know, delusional.
It would be delusional if you were saying the pain itself is inherently good, but Nietzsche's argument is structural.
Okay, unpack that.
He didn't see suffering as good, he saw it as a structural precondition for the good. He argued in his later notes, which were compiled as The Will to Power, that nothing in human experience is self-sufficient. Every moment is tied to every other moment.
The butterfly effect, Sesh.
Exactly, but on a cosmic scale. If your soul has trembled with happiness just once, if you have experienced one single moment of profound, transcendent joy, then you have to acknowledge that all of eternity, including every trauma and tragedy, was required to produce that specific configuration of reality.
Wow. So you can't have one without the other.
The bad and the good are inextricably linked. You cannot surgically remove the canceled flight or the lost job without altering the timeline that eventually leads to your greatest triumphs.
That makes a lot of sense.
Therefore, to affirm the good, you must logically affirm the bad that paved the road to it.
I want to pull in another perspective from our sources here because it highlights how difficult that affirmation really is.
Yeah.
Albert Camus, the French philosopher and absurdist.
Oh, yes.
Because the way Camus looks at the human condition is through the lens of Greek mythology, specifically the myth of Sisyphus.
Right. Sisyphus is basically the patron saint of useless labor, condemned by the gods to push a massive boulder up a mountain only to watch it roll back down to the bottom the moment he reaches the peak.
Just brutal.
And he has to do this for all eternity.
It is the ultimate metaphor for the modern inbox.
Oh, absolutely.
You answer all your emails, you hit inbox 0, and the next morning the boulder is right back at the bottom of the hill. It's frustrating, meaningless repetition. But Camus looks at this torture and makes a fascinating pivot that aligns perfectly with Nietzsche's yes-sayer.
Right. Camus argues that the human condition is fundamentally absurd. We are desperate for meaning in a universe that is silent and indifferent to us. We are all pushing boulders.
We really are.
But the profound turn in Camus's essay is when he states, one must imagine Sisyphus happy.
See, that's where I get stuck.
Huh.
How is the guy doing eternal manual labor for no reason happy?
Because Sisyphus becomes conscious of his fate, and instead of despairing over the meaninglessness of it, he owns it. He affirms the rock.
He affirms the rock. I love that.
He affirms the sweat, the dust, the heavy lifting. Happiness for Camus isn't finding some hidden divine meaning in the labor. It's the act of positively affirming the labor itself without rejecting anything of life. It's walking back down the mountain to retrieve the rock with a defiant smile.
And we see a very pragmatic echo of this in the translation we have from Cosmic Writer, the Vietnamese source on Stoicism. They strip away the mythology and look at it functionally.
Very functional, yeah.
The text points out that when we cannot change a circumstance, agonizing over it is literally a waste of cognitive bandwidth. It solves nothing. Instead, it suggests viewing fate as an exam.
A test.
Exactly. A test of bravery and an opportunity to build a new beginning.
Which is a perfect translation of the philosophy into modern utility. But let's take Nietzsche's concept and push it to its absolute psychological limit.
Okay, let's do it.
Because Nietzsche didn't just suggest we accept fate, he devised a thought experiment to test if we were truly doing it. The eternal recurrence.
Let's dive into this for you listening, because this thought experiment is terrifying if you really sit with it.
Truly terrifying.
Imagine your life is a movie. Every single second of it. Every mistake you've ever made, every humiliation, the time you got dumped, the sicknesses, the mundane hours stuck in traffic.
Every single detail.
Now imagine a demon comes to you and says you are forced to sit in a theater and watch this exact movie without a single change on an infinite loop for all eternity.
Every pain repeated infinitely.
Right. And if you wouldn't want to rewatch today's disaster, let's go back to the airport, the canceled flight, the lost job, the breakup. If you wouldn't want to live that specific day on an infinite loop, how do you force yourself to say yes to it?
It's a tough pill to swallow.
Because frankly, I don't want to watch the airport disaster movie forever. It's a terrible movie.
Yeah, nobody wants to watch that. But the brilliance of the eternal recurrence isn't about forcing yourself to love the external circumstances of the bad movie. You aren't supposed to say, I am so glad the plane broke down, I love missing career-defining meetings. That's toxic positivity.
Right. That's just lying to yourself.
Exactly. The mechanic of the mind that Nietzsche and the Stoics are pointing toward is that you say yes to how you respond to the bad movie.
Oh.
Yeah.
So I'm not affirming the canceled flight. I'm affirming my own character in the face of the canceled flight.
Precisely. You say, the flight is canceled. That is the reality of the timeline I am in. I cannot change the board. But I say an uncompromising yes to my capacity to handle this moment with grace rather than screaming at a teenager working the ticket counter.
I see.
You are affirming your internal locus of control. If you handle the crisis with profound virtue and strength, you wouldn't mind watching that version of yourself on an infinite loop.
That makes so much more sense. It totally shifts the burden. To love your fate, you really have to draw a massive, impenetrable wall between what is your actual fate to control and what is just the background noise of the universe.
And that realization is the bridge that takes us from 19th century Germany all the way back to the foundational bedrock of ancient Stoicism.
The roots of it all.
Yes, the ancients built their entire operating system on this exact distinction. They called it the dichotomy of control.
And there is no better person to learn the dichotomy of control from than Epictetus. Because his understanding of what a human being actually controls wasn't formed in some comfortable university. He was born into slavery in the Roman Empire.
Which is a context we absolutely cannot gloss over. Being a slave in first century Rome meant you had zero bodily autonomy. You had no legal rights.
Nothing.
Your location, your diet, your physical safety, your relationships, all of it existed at the absolute whim of a master. Epictetus reportedly had his leg deliberately broken by his master, leaving him crippled for life.
So when a guy who has literally been tortured and enslaved tells you about what you can and cannot control, you listen.
You absolutely listen.
He isn't speaking theoretically. He developed a philosophy of internal control as a matter of literal psychological survival.
His teachings were eventually written down by his student, Arrian, into a text called the Enchiridion, which translates to handbook or manual. And it is arguably the most potent, concentrated dose of Stoicism in existence.
It's the core of it.
Roman emperors carried it with them. Marcus Aurelius essentially built his own worldview on top of it.
The opening lines of the Enchiridion lay it out with radical simplicity. Epictetus states, "Some things are in our control and others not. Things in our control are opinion, pursuit, desire, aversion, and in a word, whatever are our own actions. Things not in our control are body, property, reputation, command, and, in one word, whatever, are not our own actions."
Notice how short the first list is.
My
Your
thing.
opinions, impulses, desires, and reactions. That's it. That is the entirety of your sovereign territory.
Yeah.
Everything else, your health, your bank account, what your boss thinks of you, whether the flight takes off on time, belongs to the external world.
And Epictetus argues that human suffering is almost entirely generated by confusing those two lists.
The mechanism of suffering is attachment to the second list. When we demand that the external world conform to our desires, we are setting ourselves up for devastation because we are betting our happiness on variables we don't control.
It's a bad bet.
It's a terrible bet. If you tie your self-worth to your reputation, you have handed the keys to your psychological stability to total strangers.
Okay, rationally that makes perfect sense. But if we look at how the human brain actually operates in the heat of the moment, it gets messy.
Very messy.
It's easy for me to sit here in the studio and say, I only control my reactions. But when someone swerves into my lane on the highway, or my boss sends an aggressive email at 11:00 p.m., my blood pressure spikes, my chest tightens, and I am furious before I've even had a conscious thought.
It's instantaneous.
So how did the Stoics account for the fact that we have a biological nervous system that reacts instantly?
They mapped it out with an emotional taxonomy that is shockingly predictive of modern neuroscience. They understood that you cannot just command the body not to feel.
You can't just flip a switch.
Right, so they broke down human emotional states into 3 distinct categories. Let's start with the dangerous one, what the Greeks called pathé.
Often translated as passions, right? But not passion like being enthusiastic about a hobby.
No. In Stoic terms, pathé refers to destructive, irrational, turbulent emotions. We are talking about blind panic, destructive rage, paralyzing grief, and desperate, insatiable craving.
The really dark stuff.
Yes, these are the emotions that make us act against our own long-term interests.
The emotions that make us send the angry reply-all email that ruins our career.
Exactly. But here is the revolutionary insight of the Stoics. They did not view these destructive pathé as uncontrollable surges of animal instinct that just happen to you. They categorized them as errors in judgment.
An error in judgment, meaning it's a cognitive mistake, not just a feeling.
Yes. They believe that destructive passions are born from a specific mathematical error in your value system. You experience pathé when you place ultimate value on things that are morally indifferent things on Epictetus' second list.
Okay, give me an example.
So if you believe, fundamentally, that wealth is the highest good, and then the stock market crashes, your brain processes that not just as a financial setback, but as the loss of the ultimate good. The false judgment, I need this money to be okay, is what generates the agonizing panic.
Because I assign infinite value to a variable I have zero control over. I did the math wrong, and the panic is just the alarm bell of a bad equation.
That is precisely how they viewed it. Now, contrast the pathé with their concept of eupathia.
The good feelings.
Right. Rational, well-reasoned emotional states. Rational joy, rational caution, rational wishing. These emotions arise from correct judgments, from valuing your own virtue, your character, your choices, things entirely on the first list.
So they aren't suppressing everything.
Not at all. A Stoic isn't a robot devoid of emotion.
Yeah.
A Stoic is someone who has upgraded their emotional operating system from irrational panic over things they can't control to irrational joy over the things they can.
But that still leaves the physical reflex, right? The jump scare, the highway swerve, the moment the heart rate spikes before the logic kicks in.
And that is the third category, papathei, pre-emotions.
The involuntary physiological reactions.
Sweating, blushing, the adrenaline dump when a loud noise happens, the immediate flush of heat when you read an insulting comment.
Stuff you literally can't stop.
Exactly. The Stoics explicitly stated that these are natural, biological, and completely unavoidable. Even the most perfectly trained Stoic sage experiences papathei. You cannot philosophize your way out of a startle reflex.
So if I can use a digital analogy here, it's essentially like an emotional spam filter for your brain.
Ooh, I like that. Let's hear it.
Well, the spam email, the pre-emotion, that sudden spike in heart rate, it lands in your inbox. You have no control over the sender. You can't stop the email from arriving. But you have the power to examine the email, recognize it's a phishing scam, and choose not to click the malicious link.
That is a brilliant analogy, yeah. The space between the papathei, the spam arriving in your inbox, and the pathy, the virus, infecting your hard drive because you clicked the link and flew into a blind rage is the most critical territory in Stoic philosophy.
The gap between trigger and response.
Yes. It is where human reason, what they called logos, steps in. Logos is your ability to grant or withhold assent to that initial impression.
So you pause.
The impression says, this email from your boss is a disaster, you should panic. Reason steps in, looks at the impression and says, no, this is just words on a screen. My reaction is under my control. I withhold my assent.
But let me push back on this, because it sounds great in theory, but in practice, clicking the link is almost automatic. Our sources dive into modern emotional regulation, specifically cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, and rational emotive behavior therapy, REBT.
Right, which are deeply tied to this.
Yeah, the sources point out that the Stoic framework is literally the foundational blueprint for CBT. Modern psychology agrees that maladaptive thoughts drive negative states, not the external events themselves. But any therapist will tell you that teaching a patient to pause in that gap takes months, if not years, of hard work.
Because the neural pathways for reactivity are deeply entrenched. The amygdala, the brain's threat detector, it processes information milliseconds faster than the prefrontal cortex, which handles logic and reason. You are fighting biology.
It's an uphill battle.
And the Stoics were entirely aware of this. They knew that you couldn't just read the Enchiridion once and suddenly be immune to rage. Philosophy wasn't a set of beliefs, it was a daily, rigorous practice. You have to upgrade your mental antivirus software before the zero-day exploit hits.
Which brings us to the actual mental gym, the practical tools. How did they train that pause?
They developed literal cognitive exercises to be practiced daily. And the most famous, and perhaps the most misunderstood, is premeditatio malorum.
The premeditation of evils. Negative visualization.
Yes, Seneca practiced this relentlessly. Marcus Aurelius wrote about it constantly in his private journal Meditations, which was basically his own personal workbook for these exercises.
Our source from Cognascroll breaks down the mechanics of this practice beautifully. It's not just worrying, right? It's a structured morning and evening routine.
Very structured.
In the morning, you carve out 2 minutes to vividly, specifically imagine losing something incredibly valuable to you. You don't just think, oh, I might lose my job. You imagine the conversation with HR. You imagine packing up your desk.
A walk to the car.
Yeah, the drive home. You imagine losing your health or your primary relationship. You sit with the uncomfortable friction of that loss. And then, at the peak of that visualization, you ask yourself, given that I still have this today, what would I do differently right now?
And the immediate psychological result is a profound shift in perspective. You stop taking the baseline of your life for granted.
It resets you.
By the evening, when you reflect on your day, the gratitude you feel for your health, your job, and your family isn't a forced platitude. It is an involuntary, visceral relief.
But I know a lot of people listening to this are deeply embedded in modern self-help culture, which, preaches manifestation. Think positive thoughts, attract positive outcomes.
Right, the good vibes only movement.
Exactly. If someone is sitting in their car before a stressful presentation, deliberately imagining getting fired sounds like a one-way ticket to a massive panic attack. Why deliberately inject negativity into your morning?
Because the modern obsession with pure positive visualization actually backfires, and the science proves it. Our sources highlight the modern research of psychologist Gabrielle Oettingen. She has spent decades studying a concept called mental contrasting.
And her findings completely subvert the manifestation trend.
Entirely. Oettingen found that people who only visualize the positive outcome, imagining getting the promotion, imagining crossing the finish line, imagining the perfect relationship, actually perform worse and put in less effort than those who imagine both the goal and the obstacles.
Wait, really? Why? Does positive thinking make you lazy?
Neurologically, yes.
Why?
When you engage in pure positive visualization, your brain experiences a simulated version of the success. You get a premature dopamine hit. The brain thinks on some level that the goal has already been achieved, which removes the motivational tension required to actually do the hard work. You become complacent.
Whereas mental contrasting, which is essentially a modern scientific version of premeditatio malorum, forces you to confront the gap between where you are and where you want to be.
Exactly. But the Stoic practice goes even deeper than motivation. It acts as psychological inoculation. Think of it like a vaccine.
Okay, I'm following.
A vaccine introduces a dead or weakened version of a virus into your system so your immune system can build antibodies. By routinely exposing yourself to the thought of loss in a safe, controlled environment, you are building psychological antibodies against panic.
So you're preparing the body.
When the actual crisis hits, it doesn't shatter your worldview because you have already simulated it 100 times. You've removed the sting of surprise.
And that ties directly into another intense Stoic practice mentioned across our sources. Memento mori. Remember, you must die.
The ultimate premeditation of evil. Reflecting on your own mortality, not as a morbid obsession, but as an agent of radical clarity.
We have an incredible paper in our stack from psychologist Jody Wellman at the University of Pennsylvania that explores exactly this. She looks at how mortality awareness acts as a catalyst for vitality.
It's a huge shift in perspective.
It completely reframes how we view daily anxieties. Think about it. If you deeply internalize the fact that you have a finite number of days on this earth, the fear of sounding stupid in a Zoom meeting, or the embarrassment of failing at a new hobby, suddenly becomes laughably trivial.
Wellman's research draws heavily on existential psychotherapy, particularly the work of Irvin Yalom. Yalom championed the idea that confronting death is a powerful agent for behavioral change.
It wakes you up.
The awareness of finitude strips away the superficial concerns that clutter our minds. It creates a portal to authentic self-knowledge. You stop living according to other people's expectations when you realize you are the one who has to die your own death.
The paper also brings in Jonathan Haidt's adversity hypothesis, which I think is crucial here. Haidt argues that human beings don't just survive challenges, we literally deteriorate without them. We reach our peak levels of psychological fulfillment because of setbacks, not in spite of them.
Because an unchallenged mind is fragile. This is echoed by researcher Barbara Fredrickson's concept of appropriate negativity.
Appropriate negativity. I like that phrase.
Yeah, we tend to pathologize negative emotions today, but Fredrickson points out that we need emotions like anger, guilt, and conflict to ground us in reality. Endless levity makes us untethered. If your goal is a flourishing, robust life, what the Greeks call eudaimonia, a radical welcoming of the negative paves the way.
It's the ultimate antidote to the hedonic treadmill. We constantly adapt to the good things in our lives,
Always wanting more.
The new car is exciting for a month, then it's just a car. The promotion is thrilling, then it's just your job. But tapping into this psychological subscale of adversity and loss triggers what researchers call benefit finding. It forces post-traumatic growth.
The Stoics had one more powerful visualization tool to facilitate this cognitive distancing, known as the view from above.
Let's walk the listener through this because it's highly practical.
It is an exercise in perspective scaling. You close your eyes and visualize yourself sitting in your room. Then you mentally zoom out like a drone ascending to view your house, your neighborhood, your town.
Okay, getting higher.
You continue zooming out to see the entire continent, the oceans, the curvature of the Earth. You keep going until you see the Earth as a pale blue dot and the vastness of the solar system, and then the galaxy.
So literally a Google Earth zoom out in your mind.
Yes, and from that cosmic vantage point, you look back down at the argument you had with your coworker, or the dent in your car door, or the delayed flight.
They vanish into subatomic insignificance.
Exactly. The purpose is not to make you feel worthless, but to diminish the perceived catastrophic importance of worldly affairs. When you view your daily friction from the perspective of the cosmos, the emotional grip it has on you loosens instantly. It provides profound cognitive distance.
So we have these incredible mental gym routines. Negative visualization, memento mori, the view from above. But it is very easy to be a practicing Stoic when you were sitting on a comfortable couch just imagining bad things.
Very true.
The real test of Amor Fati is how it holds up when the absolute worst-case scenario transcends imagination and becomes your actual, inescapable reality.
Which brings us to one of the most remarkable and profound documents in the entire Stoic canon. It is a true stress test of the philosophy written in blood and dirt. We need to look at Seneca's Exile.
Lucius Annaeus Seneca, a brilliant Roman philosopher, a wealthy statesman, a celebrated playwright. He is at the absolute peak of Roman society.
At the very top.
And then, around 41 AD, the political winds shift. The Emperor Claudius, largely influenced by his wife Messalina, sentences Seneca to exile on the Mediterranean island of Corsica. The charge was an alleged affair with the emperor's sister, Julia Livilla, which most historians agree was entirely fabricated for political convenience.
And the punishment is total devastation. Seneca loses his immense wealth, his political status, his properties, his friends, his reputation, and his freedom.
Everything.
He is banished to a barren, rugged rock of an island. The environment is harsh, the isolation is absolute. He is stripped of everything that defined his worldly success.
And while he is sitting on this rock, suffering absolute disgrace, he writes a letter. But it's not a letter begging for his life or a diary of his own misery. It is a letter of consolation to his mother, Helvia, who is back in Rome, utterly crushed by grief over what has happened to her son.
This is the source material we have from the Marginalian, and the paradox of this document is stunning.
It really is.
The person whose life has just been completely annihilated by an unjust system is the one spending his energy trying to comfort the griever.
And the way he comforts her is not with soft, gentle platitudes. He doesn't say, "Don't cry, Mom, I'll be home soon." He uses what he explicitly calls the cautery and the knife approach to grief. He goes straight for the psychological surgery.
He writes to her, "All your sorrows have been wasted on you if you've not yet learned how to be wretched."
Which, to a modern ear, sounds incredibly callous to say to your grieving mother,
Yeah.
you haven't learned how to be wretched.
It sounds harsh, yes, but it is an expression of uncompromising, battle-tested resilience. He is trying to shock her out of a fragile mindset.
Tough love.
He explains to her that everlasting misfortune actually carries one profound blessing. It ends up toughening those whom it constantly afflicts. He's urging her to realize a fundamental truth about human vulnerability. He writes that those who are most easily shattered by fortune's blows were the ones who were first deceived by her favors.
I want to dwell on that phrase, deceived by her favors, because this perfectly encapsulates the Stoic view of luck, wealth, and status. It's almost like treating fortune, the external world, like a casino.
Walk down that analogy for me.
Okay, so if you walk into a glamorous casino and the pit boss hands you a free suite, comp drinks, and you immediately hit a massive winning streak at the blackjack table, it is incredibly easy to start believing that the casino is your friend.
You feel invincible.
Right. You start to feel entitled to the winnings. You think the chips belong to you. But the reality is the casino doesn't care about you. The math is designed against you.
Always.
And if you build your entire identity on that winning streak, you are going to be psychologically bankrupted when the house eventually, inevitably, takes its cut. Because the house always wins.
That is a phenomenal translation of Seneca's logic into modern terms. If you love the gifts of fortune, you wealth, your status, your easy life, as if they're your inherent property forever, you will be destroyed when those transient pleasures desert you.
It's all just borrowed.
Exactly. Seneca tells his mother that he survived the fall from power because he never trusted the climb. The person who doesn't puff themselves up in good times doesn't collapse when the times change. They treat the winnings as a loan, not a right.
And he takes it a step further. He actually reframes the entire nature of his exile to comfort her.
A total perspective shift.
Yeah, he tells Helvia that he is not just surviving, he is happy. Why? Because while the emperor took his house and his bank accounts, the emperor could not touch his mind. Seneca writes that his mind is free to ponder the universe, to observe the sea, the sky, and divine things. Exterior displacement cannot touch interior stability.
This logic completely transcends its era. The Marginalian source beautifully connects Seneca's writings from 41 AD to Viktor Frankl in the 20th century.
Frankl's story is incredible.
It is. Frankl, an Austrian psychiatrist, survived the unimaginable horrors of the Nazi concentration camps. And from that abyss, observing men who gave up and men who shared their last piece of bread, Frankl concluded that everything can be taken from a human being but one thing. The last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way.
It is the ultimate manifestation of the dichotomy of control. They can break your body, they can steal your freedom, but they cannot grant assent to your mind's internal judgments. You retain sovereignty over your reaction.
It also evokes Bruce Lee's famous philosophical metaphor, be formless, shapeless like water.
Oh, yeah.
When you pour water into a cup, it becomes the cup. When you pour it into a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Resilience is not about being a rigid brick wall that stands against the storm until it eventually cracks and shatters. Resilience is about flowing into the reality of the container you are poured into.
Adapting to the shape of fate.
Seneca was poured into the container of exile, and instead of shattering against it, he filled it and found a way to thrive within its boundaries.
But there is a critique here that naturally arises, and we have to address it. Because Seneca was isolated on an island, finding peace in his own mind, detached from Roman politics. Yet his primary concern, the very reason he wrote the letter, was for his mother's well-being.
He was reaching out.
He spent his intellectual energy trying to comfort her. And this action completely shatters one of the most pervasive, toxic misconceptions about Stoicism in the modern era.
You are referring to the myth of the selfish Stoic.
Exactly. Because if you look at internet culture today, particularly the Sigma male grindset spaces, Stoicism has been hijacked.
It really has.
It is constantly pitched as a hyper-individualistic life hack. It's sold as a methodology to become emotionally detached, outmaneuver your business competitors, get rich, and basically not care about anyone else's feelings. It's pitched as armor against having to care.
Which is a fundamental, almost grotesque perversion of the philosophy. Our source from Enigmatic Egos dives deep into this hijacking. The ancient Stoics believed that philosophy rested on 4 cardinal virtues: wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance.
Justice being key there.
Exactly. If you strip away justice, the obligation to your fellow human beings, and just keep the emotional regulation and discipline, what you have isn't Stoicism. It is just Machiavellian self-interest wrapped in a toga.
Wrapped in a toga, that's perfect. Yeah. Because the ancient Stoics were fundamentally communitarian. They didn't believe in retreating to a mountain cave. They believed humans are inherently social creatures, rationally designed to work together.
They were the original proponents of cosmopolitanism. They viewed themselves not just as citizens of Athens or Rome, but as cosmopolites, citizens of the world.
World citizens.
Yes. They believed a divine rationality, the logos, flows through all human beings, creating a fundamental, unbreakable kinship across all borders and classes.
The source outlines a beautiful concept from a later Stoic philosopher named Heracles called eugesis, the expanding circle of concern.
It is one of the most elegant visualizations in ancient ethics. Heracles asks us to imagine our identity as a series of concentric circles.
Okay, let's draw this out for the listener.
The innermost circle, bullseye, is your own mind and body, the immediate self.
Got it.
The second circle surrounding it is your immediate family. The third circle is your extended family and close friends. The fourth is your local community and neighbors. The fifth is your city or nation. And the final, vast, outermost circle encompasses all of humanity.
And the ethical goal of a practicing Stoic isn't to stay in the bullseye. The goal is to actively draw those outer circles inward, right?
Precisely.
To eventually treat a stranger in that outermost circle with the same care, respect, and ethical obligation as you would a sibling in the second circle.
It is a systematic expansion of empathy. Marcus Aurelius, the emperor of Rome, who literally had the power of life and death over millions, frequently wrote in his private journal about sympathia, the belief that all things are mutually woven together in a sacred bond. He famously noted a rule for his own behavior. What brings no benefit to the hive brings none to the bee.
But let me pause you there, because we need to connect some philosophical dots. I see a glaring tension here.
Okay, what is it?
If I am supposed to genuinely care about the welfare of all humanity, that outermost circle, doesn't that directly conflict with the dichotomy of control we spent the first half of this deep dive establishing? I cannot control humanity. I cannot control society or politics or whether my community prospers. So, if it's out of my control, shouldn't I be utterly indifferent to it to protect my inner peace?
It's a vital question, and it is where understanding the nuance of Stoic categorization is critical. The Stoics did not view external events like the health of their community or the justice of their laws as entirely meaningless.
Okay, so they aren't totally detached.
No, they categorized them as indifference because they do not dictate your moral character, but they subdivided them into preferred indifference and dispreferred indifference.
So you prefer justice and peace, but you don't lose your mind if injustice happens.
Exactly. A true Stoic profoundly prefers that their community thrives, that their family is healthy, and that justice is served. And they will work tirelessly, using all their energy and political capital to achieve it.
Without attachment to the outcome.
Because the internal virtue of trying to help others, of acting with justice, is entirely within your control. What you do not control is the final outcome. The vote might fail. The disease might win. The tyrant might take power.
So you work for the good of the hive with everything you have, but you refuse to let your internal peace be destroyed if the outcome fails to materialize despite your absolute best efforts. It is a radical focus on the process of virtue, completely detaching from the outcome.
Yes, and we see this played out at the highest levels of historical leadership. Our source examining Marcus Aurelius points out how remarkably magnanimous he was as a leader.
Truly unique for an emperor.
The article links his operating philosophy to Chapter 6 of the Maha Upanishad from ancient Indian philosophy, which states, "The entire world is a family."
Which shows how universal this concept of the expanding circle really is. Cultures across the globe arrived at the same conclusion.
Marcus was an absolute powerhouse of an emperor, not because he was ruthless, but because he actively sought out mentors to cultivate specific virtues to serve the state.
He didn't just wing it.
No. From Antoninus Pius, his adoptive father, he meticulously learned the value of maintaining peace and managing the empire's complex finances without ego. From Maximus, he learned how to project cheerfulness and stability in all circumstances, preventing panic in the ranks.
Essential for a leader.
From Catullus, he learned the discipline of never acting out of anger. And from Diognetus, he learned focus the ability to ignore trifling court gossip and concentrate on what mattered to the people.
He treated leadership as a duty to the hive, not a privilege for the bee. And our sources offer a brilliant, much more modern application of this kind of high-stakes, outcome-detached leadership. John F. Kennedy during the 1962 Cuban Missile Crisis.
It is perhaps the most terrifying 13 days in human history.
Unimaginable pressure.
The United States discovers that the Soviet Union is constructing ballistic nuclear missile sites in Cuba, just 90 miles from Florida.
The threat of total global annihilation is no longer theoretical, it is imminent. And the pressure on Kennedy from his own military advisors, his generals, is immense.
They wanted to strike.
They're demanding a hasty, massive, retaliatory airstrike to take out the sites. Raw, aggressive action, an eye for an eye.
Which, neurologically, is the amygdala screaming to click the malicious link. The generals were succumbing to pathé, blind panic masked as tactical aggression.
Right.
But Kennedy, fully aware of the stakes, chose a different path. Instead of escalating instantly, he instituted a naval quarantine. He ordered a blockade to prevent further Soviet supplies from arriving, rather than bombing the island.
And our source argues this was a profoundly Stoic maneuver. By choosing the blockade over the bomb, he manufactured a pause.
A massive global pause.
He created physical and temporal space for reflection. He extended the timeline, allowing the Soviet premier, Nikita Khrushchev, the opportunity to also pause and step back from the brink.
Kennedy inserted reason logos into the gap between the initial terrifying impression and the ultimate reaction. He controlled the only thing he actually could, his own deliberate restraint.
And it worked.
And ultimately, that manufactured pause achieved a peaceful resolution, saving the hive from nuclear fire.
So to bring this full circle, modern self-obsession, this narcissism driven by external validation and life-hacking your way to the top, is the exact opposite of Stoic self-mastery.
The complete opposite.
Self-mastery is not the end goal. It is merely the tool you sharpen so that you can serve the community effectively without being derailed by your own ego. If you harm the community to get ahead, you inherently harm yourself because you are part of the hive.
Precisely. Emotional regulation in Stoicism isn't about suppressing empathy so you can be a cold, calculating machine. It is about removing the chaotic, destructive passions like panic and rage so that you can actually respond to the world's real problems with clear-headed, effective, compassionate action.
Which brings us perfectly to the reality of our current moment. Section 6 of our deep dive, Amor Fati in 2026, Surviving the Digital Hustle.
This is where it gets incredibly practical.
Because that exact tension we just outlined, caring deeply about the state of the world while accepting that you cannot fundamentally control it, is exactly why Stoicism is having such a massive mainstream resurgence today.
The environment we live in now, this hyper-connected digital ecosystem, is fundamentally engineered to trigger those pathé. It is machine designed to generate destructive passions.
It's built for outrage.
We are subjected to constant digital connectivity, the toxic comparison culture of social media, the looming macroeconomic fear of failure, and the normalization of chronic burnout.
Our source from ThinkVerse today contrasts modern hustle culture with Stoicism, and the distinction is vital. Hustle culture is entirely predicated on external validation.
And burnout?
Right. It glorifies chronic stress. The message is that you are supposed to be grinding 24/7, optimizing every second of your life for productivity. But the fuel for hustle culture is motivation. And motivation is an emotion. And like all emotions, it fades quickly.
Hustle culture places your locus of control entirely external to yourself. You are endlessly chasing metrics you do not control: likes, views, promotions, market share.
The algorithm dictates your mood.
When the algorithm changes or the market dips, your self-worth plummets with it. Stoicism offers a deeply sustainable alternative. Calm, focused effort based on inner satisfaction, adherence to your own virtues, and lasting, unglamorous habits.
Let's use a dietary analogy here. It sounds to me like hustle culture and this modern obsession with motivation is like a massive sugar rush.
It's a sugar rush, okay?
You watch a hype video on social media, you get a huge spike of dopamine, you work for 14 hours straight on a project, and then 2 days later you crash into complete lethargic burnout. You are emotionally bankrupt. Stoicism, on the other hand, is like eating complex carbohydrates, a bowl of oatmeal.
It's not as sexy.
Exactly. It doesn't give you a jittery high. No one makes a viral video about oatmeal, but it gives you slow, sustained, unbreakable energy that actually keeps you alive and moving forward when the hype fades.
A very apt analogy. Because the digital age relies on emotional reactivity to generate revenue. Social media algorithms literally prioritize content that makes you angry, anxious, or envious, because those strong pathé keep your eyes glued to the screen.
It's hijacking our biology.
Stoicism is the ultimate mental shield against that predatory information overload.
Because it forces you to pause before clicking the link and ask, Is this outrage notification actually in my control? Is the political opinion of this angry stranger on the internet in my control? Is the macroeconomic trend of the housing market in my control?
And 99.9% of the time, the objective answer is no.
And when the answer is no, you drop it.
You have to drop it.
The source quotes Seneca via the Vietnamese creator, cosmic writer, highlighting one of his most famous psychological insights. We suffer more in imagination than in reality.
That's so true today.
We invent disastrous scenarios, we project malice onto strangers online, we agonize over worst-case outcomes that never materialize. We suffer the pain of 1,000 imagined tragedies for every one real obstacle.
So, practically speaking, what does a modern Stoic practice look like for someone trying to survive 2026? We know about negative visualization in the morning, but how do we close the day?
What's the evening routine?
It looks a lot like what Marcus Aurelius did in a military tent on the Roman frontier, just applied to a modern apartment. An evening self-reflection. Before you go to sleep, you review your day not for what you achieved, but for how you behaved.
A character audit.
You ask yourself, what did I handle well today? Did I successfully pause before reacting to that passive-aggressive email? What destructive passion did I succumb to? Where can I improve tomorrow? It is a constant, gentle, non-judgmental recentering on the process of your character, rather than the outcome of your day.
Because true freedom in 2026 isn't having an easy life. It's not reaching inbox zero, or having the most money, or avoiding all friction. True freedom is achieving a mental state where external events, a nasty comment online, a sudden economic shift, or a canceled flight at the airport no longer dictate your internal weather.
When you finally stop trying to control the massive, chaotic boulder of the external world and start controlling only your own footing as you push against it, the chronic stress of modern life slowly loses its power to break you.
Wow. Okay, we have covered a massive amount of ground today. Let's synthesize this journey for you listening.
Sounds good.
We started with Friedrich Nietzsche's radical, uncompromising demand to love your fate. Not just endure the terrible movie of your worst day, but to become a defiant yes-sayer to it, recognizing that the struggle is structurally necessary for your triumphs.
We then explored the psychological spam filter of the Stoics, realizing that our initial panic and rage are often just pre-emotions, and we have the power of the logos to insert reason before that panic becomes a destructive passion. We learned to practice mental contrasting to build our psychological antibodies.
We sat with Seneca in his darkest hours of exile on the barren rock of Corsica, learning the hard truth that those who are most shattered by fortune's blows were the ones who allowed themselves to be deceived by her favors when they were winning at the casino of life.
We expanded our empathy outward with Hierocles' concentric circles, breaking the myth of the selfish Stoic and realizing that true self-mastery is about serving the human hive with calm effectiveness, just as Kennedy did during the missile crisis.
And finally, we applied all of this ancient technology to the burnout-heavy, algorithm-driven landscape of 2026, trading the frantic, exhausting sugar rush of hustle culture for the complex carbs of Stoic discipline.
It is a philosophy not of passive acceptance, but of profound, unshakable empowerment.
So, to you listening, the next time you face a massive disappointment, a career failure that seems unfair, a personal tragedy, or just a cascading series of annoyances like a canceled flight, remember the dichotomy of control. You cannot control the boulder rolling back down the hill, but you, and only you, control exactly how you choose to push it back up.
And I want to leave you with one final unresolved thought to ponder as you step back out into the friction of the real world.
The final challenge.
We have talked extensively today about loving your fate to fuel your own personal resilience. And we have talked about your ethical duty to the broader human hive.
The expanding circles.
Exactly. But what happens when Amor Fati demands that your specific, unavoidable fate is to sacrifice your own preferred comforts? What if your fate requires the loss of your wealth, your reputation, your freedom, or maybe even your life, so that the rest of the hive can survive and thrive? Are you truly ready to love a fate where you don't get to be the beautiful flower that blooms in the sun, but instead the universe asks you to be the fertilizer buried in the dark?
That is heavy. But it's exactly the murkiness, the profound uncertainty that we have to navigate. Because whether you are destined to be the flower or the fertilizer, the X-ray machine of life is broken, the flight is definitely canceled, and the reality is exactly what it is. The only question left to answer is, are you going to say yes to it?